Folks, are you feeling weepy and sleepy these days? Dreamy, spacey, head in the clouds, trouble focusing, but also soft, restful, creative, intuitive, spiritual. Welcome to Pisces season and this ongoing Mercury retrograde in Pisces. But meanwhile, Pisces ruling planet Neptune is in fiery Aries. People are out there acting like assholes, driving terribly, being impulsive and downright mean. There's so much to be rightfully rageful about in the world, and now we're going to war too, I guess? It is such a weird mix of astrological energies in the air right now. Enter the emotional journey of this week, featuring a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo tomorrow morning, which is sure to disrupt our Piscean dreams. But we will have some other transits to help us process that eclipse and bridge this transitional Pisces-Aries energy that we're going through. So let's dive in and take a closer look. Today is Monday, March 2nd, and early this morning, the moon entered service-oriented analytical Virgo on its way to tomorrow's eclipse. This morning, we also saw Mars ingress into the sign of Pisces, where it'll be for the next 5-ish weeks. So there's a chance that our energy will dissipate even more easily now. Like steam coming off a hot spring, we might feel our drive is harder to access in the deep waters of Pisces. But this is the sign of empathy and interconnectedness. So spending time in this environment, Mars is being reminded of the beauty and love in this world that is worth fighting for, of the most vulnerable who are in need of protecting. Sometimes, especially in this society, compassion takes courage. Connecting with authentic, decolonized spirituality takes courage. Dreaming of and creating a better future takes courage. And that is what Mars in Pisces is here to do. Which brings us to the morning of Tuesday, March 3rd. Now, the moon will be at 13 degrees of Virgo, opposite the sun at 13 degrees of Pisces. And that spells a full moon. But with the moon just a few degrees away from the south node in Pisces, the conditions are ripe for a lunar eclipse, folks. This is the second in a pair of eclipses, so we're closing up that eclipse portal. The first one was a solar eclipse a couple weeks ago, which tends to be more about external events. But as they relate to the emotional moon, lunar eclipses tend to work their biggest impact on our internal landscape. Think the usual heightened emotions of a full moon times 100 with that unpredictable turbulence of an eclipse. And a south node eclipse like this one points us toward the more negative aspects of the sign that it's in, because the south node tells us about the toxic baggage that we are collectively called to release at this time. Release is a big theme of full moons anyway, so that makes this a very powerful moment. Our assignment right now is to let go of the nitpicky criticism and judgment associated with the sign of Virgo, to decondition ourselves from perfectionism, which is a tool of white supremacy, to reject purity culture, carceral thinking and systems, individualism, and the notion that some people are more worthy of surviving and thriving than others. To remember that our disempowering sense of shame, guilt, and inadequacy is no coincidence, but intentionally programmed into us by an oppressive system. This isn't always talked about in astrology, but Virgo is a sign associated with power imbalances. In ancient astrology, this was the sign of servants and slaves, along with its associated house, the 6th house. So, to be clear, slavery still very much exists in today's world. This is still a relevant topic to talk about. And now we've reached such an extreme of power imbalance, with most of our resources concentrated in the hands of a few greedy, brutally violent villains. So these are the material structures of oppression that we need to destroy, but also that we need to dismantle inside our minds, hearts, and souls, so that we don't become agents who enable, empower, and perpetuate those systems and beliefs, right? Many of us live with constant anxiety in today's world, and for good reason. But an imbalance of Virgo energy will have us pointlessly running in circles, fussing over little details, wasting our energy, endlessly preparing and worrying and never taking action. This will have us endlessly criticizing ourselves, beating ourselves up, only to then project that judgment and criticism onto others. It'll have us feeling so hopeless about the gap between reality as it is and as it should or could be. And listen, if this is triggering to hear, I have my Sun, Venus, and Jupiter in Virgo. Okay, I know, I empathize, but this is the hard lesson we need to learn right now. This is the bitter medicine that we need to swallow. And what helps us to do that is the sweetness of Pisces, where the North Lunar Node is transiting through these days. That Piscean compassion, empathy, intuition, spiritual connection, creative vision, divine love, revolutionary optimism that we're being called towards, that we're reflecting on with this Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So, here's your assignment for tomorrow's eclipse. If you believe that all human life is inherently worthy, remember that that also applies to yourself. Try to forgive yourself from that self-punishing criticism that keeps you incapacitated and imbalanced, so that you can move forward and really do some good in this world. How about that? Well, time marches on, and so shall we, taking a look at Wednesday, March 4th, a very Venusian day, when lovely Venus will be at just under 28 degrees of Pisces, forming a sextile to Uranus at the same degrees of Taurus. This can really stimulate the revolutionary love that this era is calling us toward. It's a chance to invite more authenticity and liberation into our relationships, which are the foundation of the revolution. And that can be your relationship with yourself as well as with others. This transit can bring a spark of energy to really align the way we utilize our resources with our revolutionary values. Uranus does tend to upset the balance that Venus strives so hard to achieve, but with this sextile, that will hopefully be a helpful recalibration. So Wednesday is a good opportunity to change things up. And that same day, the moon will move into Venus-ruled Libra, the sign of relationships and harmony, balance, and beauty. The next day, Thursday, March 5th, we will see the sun halfway through the sign of Pisces, forming a trine to Jupiter, which is retrograde at 15 degrees of Cancer. This is a very heart-opening transit, inviting a flow of emotion, spirituality, and healing between these two water signs. Thursday, I like as a sort of salve for processing whatever might arise during tomorrow's eclipse. This trine can expand our energy in a more compassionate, creative direction. It's a great chance to nurture and care for ourselves and others. It's perfect energy for cultivating self-love, again on the heels of that Virgo eclipse, while also reminding us that we are transcendent, bigger than our individual identities, part of this vast interconnected cosmic consciousness. So this trine can reinvigorate our faith, resilience, and generosity, our dreams and connection to the cosmos. It's very supportive to this inward Mercury retrograde journey that we're on. But then, early in the morning of Friday, March 6th, Venus will swim out of the Piscean Ocean and into the sign of Aries, bringing a sudden fiery boldness and courage to Venus. You may feel a spike of passion on Friday. You might feel called to bravely, honestly address challenging tensions in your relationships, or otherwise just descend into pointless conflict and misdirected anger. Maybe you'll boldly venture into an intimidating creative project. Maybe you'll harness this energy to fight for equality and justice. Because love and compassion doesn't mean that you take harm and oppression lying down, whether for your own sake or for that of others. Venus and Aries can stand up for itself, fight, face its fears, wield art, beauty, creativity, and love as tools or even weapons. It can be direct, embodied, empowered, and present. And on Friday evening, the moon enters deep, passionate Scorpio, giving us more of a chance to bravely explore our intense emotions and close relationships. Then, early the morning of Saturday, March 7th, we will highlight Mercury retrograde again as the sun is conjunct Mercury at 17 degrees of Pisces. This transit can help you open your mind and empower your voice. It can shine a light on our Mercury retrograde reflections, making them more personal, asking us to evaluate our identity and self-image in light of everything going on up in the sky and down here on Earth. And if you want to refresh on what this Mercury retrograde in Pisces is all about, you can always check out my weather report from last week's show. But another transit is happening shortly after this one on Saturday, when Venus will be conjunct Neptune at 1 degree of Aries. And as I mentioned earlier, a transit like this can help to bridge the messy rebirth of a transition between dreamy Pisces and bold, brave Aries. Venus conjunct Neptune is a great time for inspired, visionary creativity. It's a chance to experience deep, beautiful spiritual connection, to lean into boundless empathy and compassion in our relationships and in society in a broader sense. And in the sign of Aries, the assignment is to act on that, to put our money where our mouths are. The pitfalls to watch out for, of course, are escapist, avoidant pleasure seeking, and that Neptunian illusion and delusion. So remember, especially with this reflective, meditative Mercury retrograde still in play, to slow things down and build in opportunities for recalibration, grounding, and reality checks. Which will come pretty quickly because on the morning of Sunday, March 8th, Venus will be conjunct Saturn at 2.5 degrees of Aries, providing an immediate wake-up call. Saturn asks what is realistic and sustainable, what price we're willing to pay for what we want. Saturn invites serious commitment, focus, and self-discipline in how we engage with our relationships, our resources, our creativity, our quest for equality and justice. Saturn asks for loyalty, reliability, for us to embody our values with integrity and maturity. With Venus conjunct Saturn, you may need to set and maintain more firm boundaries. Maybe you need to carve out some solitude and alone time. Or on the flip side, you might feel isolated, limited, restricted, and need to focus on putting effort into reaching out and connecting with others. So as always, your mileage may vary, and you want to connect this to what's going on in your own experience, right? We will finish off the week here with a lovely transit on Sunday as Mercury at 15 degrees of Pisces will form a trine to Jupiter in Cancer, echoing that Sun-Jupiter trine from earlier in the week. But now in a more mental capacity, because as it connects to Mercury retrograde, Jupiter can help to expand our emotional and spiritual reflections, our thinking, our perspective, our communication, our compassion, our creativity, our connection. This is one of those days to stay open to cosmic messages, to use the tool of language for processing and healing. This trine can help us to become more aware of opportunities and get ready to act on them. So we have some good chances to process and grow from this transformational eclipse week here. I'm sending you all lots of love. That's it for this week's astrological weather report. I'm Alice Pope. Logan, back to you.